Hello and welcome to episode 37 of the Catherine Crochets podcast. Hi everyone, welcome back to my podcast. It's really nice to have you all here. I'm really excited to share quite a few finished objects with you today. I've got granny square bag, I've got a shawl, I've got a wrap, and I've got a tank top. Well, we in the UK call it a tank top. I think in the US it might be called a vest. Let me know what you call it in the comments when you see it later. So quite a few accessories and garments, wearable stuff, that sort of thing today. And oddly, they're all finished. I haven't got any whips, or at least none that I have got whips, of course, but I haven't got any whips to share with you today. The two main ones that I'm working on are still at that secret stage. One of them at least, hopefully I know I will be able to share with you next time. The other one you'll have to wait a little bit longer for, but still hopefully lots of nice things to show you today. And if you like the sound of accessories and a garment, then stick around and you'll be able to see them very soon. I should introduce myself. My name's Catherine. I'm a crochet designer from South London in the UK, and I am Catherine of Catherine Crochets. I'm a pattern designer, like I said. I'll pop all the links below to where you can buy my patterns, look at my patterns if you're interested. There's also a big selection of free patterns, and I'd love it if some of you would like to sign up to my email list as well, where you get a monthly newsletter and pattern release news, the biggest discounts, lots of good stuff like that. So do sign up if that sounds like something you might be interested in. So let's get going with the crochet. I'm just picking up the projects at random. I haven't made any notes. I've just got the things on the floor next to me, and I'm going to work through them. Like I said, they're all finished, so I'm feeling quite pleased with myself. It's been a little while since the last episode, and if you watch that episode, I think at the end of it I was saying that I was going to put a few whips that I've been working on hold and focus on two projects that sort of had deadlines, and they did have deadlines, to make sure that I got those finished in time. So I'll start with those two, which isn't the one I've just picked up. So I'll put that back down again and show you the first of those two projects that I finished. And the first one was a pattern test. I don't think I'd started either of them last time I podcast, which was a couple of months ago, I think. But yeah, they're completely finished. So between podcasts, I've started and finished these projects. So the first one is this, which is I would call this, well, I might change my mind now, but when I was younger, this would be called a tank top, but I've seen lots of people calling it a vest, whereas to me a vest is more something that you'd wear as a summer top, like a strappy vest, or underneath something in the winter to keep you warm. But yeah, so a vest or a tank top or a sleeveless sweater. I think some people also call it a slip over, don't they? We might call it a sleeveless jumper, but it's called the Ducky Fuzz. It's designed by Rosina over at Zeens and Rogers, and it is I made it with drops brushed alpaca silk, which is a really fluffy yarn. I'm not sure, I think it's picking it up, isn't it? So this feels so light and airy and soft. It sort of feels, a bit like a cloud. It's really lovely. And the pattern is specifically designed for fluffy yarn. The yarn that Rosina used to make hers, I think it was a hand-dyed yarn. And whilst it looked absolutely gorgeous, I decided to go with a more budget option of drops brushed alpaca, partly because although the colours it was available in were beautiful, none of them felt quite like the sort of colour that I'd wear and that would suit me. And also because I don't have 100% success rate with crocheting garments, and sometimes the fit isn't quite right, and I thought better to try the pattern first with a cheaper yarn, and then I could, if there were a colour I wanted to use in a more expensive yarn, then remake it when I know which size and so on and hook size would work best for me and produce a fit that I wanted. So yeah, so I used the Drops brushed alpaca silk, and I'm really pleased with the result. The colour I chose is called Steel Blue, and I bought it from the Wool Warehouse website, and their little image of it looked a lot grayer. It was a real grey blue, and then when it arrived, it's actually this colour, which is a much bluer blue. I wouldn't say there's really anything sort of grey or even that steely about this. I do still like it, but yeah, just a sort of heads up if you're looking at that colour on their website anytime. It's not exactly the colour that the yarn actually is, which is often the case, isn't it? I think especially with blues, but I do still like it. I just tried it on just before I started filming with this t-shirt, and it doesn't work with the t-shirt. This neckline pops out, the t-shirt's too puffy. So I will pop up a few photos of me wearing it so you can see what it looks like on me. And it does go, in the photos, I think I'm wearing a white shirt, and I think it does work really well over that with a collar. But yeah, really pleased with it. This was my first time working with a fluffy yarn like this, and it is quite different to working with a cotton or an acrylic or even just a normal wool yarn, just because of that extra fluffiness, giving it that extra thickness to the yarn. And it does mean as well that if you make a mistake frogging it, you have to do really, really carefully and gently and kind of ease the stitches undone, otherwise it will just snags and gets caught up. So it does require a bit of extra care to work with, I'd say, and give yourself, if you're doing it, give yourself, or using this sort of yarn, give yourself a little bit of time to get into the feel of the stitches and see how your tension behaves as well, because it might be that, because for me it felt quite new and different as I was crocheting, I think my tension changed as I sort of relaxed into it and got into the flow of working with this sort of yarn. So just yeah, take care of that. But otherwise, you know, once I did get into the flow of it, it hooked up just as easily really as working with any other yarn. The ribbing around the edges, that's the main part of the sweater. The ribbing was then sort of another challenge at the end. So it's around the neckline and the armholes and along the bottom. I won't tell you exactly what the sort of ribbing is, because obviously that's all in the pattern and it's a paid for pattern. So it was it's a new version of ribbing that I've not made before, but it's not using, it's just using slightly different stitches, not using a different technique as such, if that makes sense. But one of them I did find quite difficult, at least initially, with this fluffy yarn to do. But as with the rest of the sweater, once I got the hang of it, I found working on it in big chunks, and there was a sort of I worked out a technique of how to hold the yarn and the hook to make that stitch work for me. And once I got the hang of it, then it took some time, but just went for it and got the ribbing done. And I think the final result of how it looks, it is a really nice looking ribbing, and it was well worth the effort. So I'll pop a link to the pattern below if you're interested in making one yourself. It is a really lovely top. Let's just call it a top, shall we? Ducky Fuzz from Zeens and Roger. So that was my first finished item. Yeah, and the deadline obviously was because it was a pattern test, so it needed to be done I think by around about early April. Yeah, so I finished it, must be about a month ago now, because it's early May now. So the other project that I wanted to focus on, because of having a deadline, is this Lost in Time shawl. Last time, I think I showed you right at the end, I'd bought, it was a Shapey's Whirl Lavendelicious, which I'd bought to make it with. And I think I showed you the whirl right at the end of the podcast, and I probably explained it was the second time that I'd ever bought a whirl. That I had used one other gradient yarn once as well, but I was really excited to work with one again, because it's just so much fun working through the colour changes and seeing when the next one arrives. So yeah, I made the Lost in Time shawl with it, which is a very well-known pattern, isn't it? Again, I'll pop a link below. It's designed by Joanna Lindahl, I think her surname is, of Mijo Crochet, and yeah, it's stunning. I'll hold it a bit closer so you can see the texture in the stitches. So it's one section, or one, yeah, like that is sort of one section, and you repeat it, well, as many times as you want, depending on what thickness yarn you've got. So I've done it a few times, as you can see, and then finished it off with the edging and the tassels. If you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen I posted about it a little bit in my stories, because I realised when I got to this point, I crocheted a few more rounds. You have to stop at this point in the pattern repeat, so after one of these sections, and then add the border onto that. So you can't just stop at any point. Well, I don't know, you might be able to work out a way to do that, but that's not what the pattern says to do. So when I got to this point, I crocheted a few more rows or rounds. They're rows really, aren't they? And then realised I didn't have enough yarn left in the whirl to go right to the end with the whirl. So I had two options then. I could either buy one of the solid whirlettes, which was available in this colour to match the central colour, but there wasn't one that matched the outer colour of the whirl, or I could just stop at this point here. So at that stage, I hadn't blocked the shawl. It has enlarged quite a lot now I've blocked it, and I wasn't quite sure that it would be big enough if I didn't do an extra repeat of the pattern before adding the edging. That was one reason I decided to try the whirlette approach, adding that on. And the other reason was that the pattern's not, it doesn't talk about using a whirl. Can't remember what yarn quantities it says, but lots of people have made it with a whirl. I think including the designer, and on her website she says that there's a photo of one she made with a whirl, and says that she gets through the pattern repeats 5 times, and I've only done it, so this first bit isn't the pattern repeat, it's ever so slightly different. So the pattern repeat is sort of that, so I did it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So I couldn't quite tell from the photos whether or not she was counting the first bit, which is very similar but just not quite exactly the same as a pattern repeat, or just as the initial setup rounds. So I thought, well, she's made her just with 5 repeats and a whirl, so I should probably aim for that, but I expect my tension's just a bit looser, assuming she did get an extra repeat from her whirl. So I probably just got slightly bigger stitches, and that's why I couldn't do it. Or she was counting this first bit as one of the pattern repeats, and this was the same size that she got. I'm not sure. But anyway, for those 2 reasons, if you're still sticking with me, I decided to buy a whirlette and try that out to do the outer few rounds. So when I got to this point, I sort of folded it over next to the dark bit and thought, oh, finishing it off with a dark trim could look quite nice and work quite well. So I bought the Whirlette, I think it was about £7, grapper, which matches the central colour, and started, I'd got a few more rounds past here, rows, and then I started adding on rows with this as well. But there were going to be, it wasn't going to be the thinnest of edgings, it was probably would have been about all of that, say, at the next repeat out, but all of that in this dark colour. And after I'd done a few rows of it, I realised it didn't look good. It wasn't finishing it off how I wanted it to. So I decided to just frog it back to the end of the last repeat and add the border to that, the edging to that. And especially now I've blocked it, it's definitely plenty big enough, and I'm very happy with the result and think that was definitely the right decision in the end. If I'd got a bit more through the whirl, I'll show you what I've got left. It's in 2 bits because of my stopping and starting twice, but so there would have been more of this colour, plus that was the very final solid colour. So it would have got to a slightly more solid, darker colour if I'd been able to use a bit more, but I think it still looks fine ending on this colour. I'm doing my usual trick, aren't I, waving my projects around all over the place. So it would have been nice to have had a little bit more of those colours in it, I think, but it still looks fine without them. So really happy with that. And the deadline that I had for this scarf shawl is because I've made it for my gran, who is turning 100 this month, and she lives in Jersey in the Channel Islands, so we're going over to see her soon, and I will give this to her then. And purple, she loves to wear purple, this kind of like these kind of mauvey colours, soft grey purples, so I think hopefully she should really like this, so I'm looking forward to giving it to her. So yeah, that had that deadline because I wanted it done before her birthday, and I got it done, yeah, in good time with a couple of weeks to spare, so that's great. So those were my first 2 projects. I've now got this Whirlette left over, which this was just the bit that I started using and adding to the shawl, but then decided not to. So I've got a whole shape piece Whirlette, which is, how much do you get? It's not as big as a whirl. It is, I've covered it up. Where does it say? I think it's 100 grams, 455 meters, and it's fingering weight. So I mean, if one whirl is enough to make a shawl, and this is slightly less, being a whirlette, let me know if you've got any ideas what I can make with this whirlette. It's really nice soft yarn. So that was project number 2. Then I've got another finished object. This one, I think I showed you the start of it, probably not in the last episode, but maybe the one before that. And it is this granny square bag, and it's a stash buster. I just picked some bright colours from my stash that I wanted to use up, and bought the handles on Amazon. And it's one giant granny square, and then you when you do the final sort of trim, if you like, there's some special decreases that help cluster it all in together, and you do a couple of tabs for the handles to hold the handles and sew them on. I didn't line it, so I should say the pattern comes from this book, My Granny Square Wardrobe, by Sam Sabido Crochets. Well, I think on Instagram she's Sam Sabido Crochets, but her name is obviously just Sam Sabido. And I reviewed this a few episodes back, and there's a review on my blog as well that I'll link underneath if you want to see the full review. and you can check back. I'll find out which episode it was and pop that down below as well if you want the full review. But this is called the Feel the Magic bag, which was the project I decided to make from the book. And it was really good actually having the pattern, because obviously whilst a granny square itself is really straightforward, having the decreases for the top bit, and so especially so these two sides end up the right length for the handles, you know, it's all been really well thought out and tells you exactly what to do and how to make it so that it finishes off spot on, so you don't have to do the maths yourself. I didn't line it. I've never lined a crochet bag. It is definitely on my list to do at some point one day. I didn't have a sewing machine, so I think that sort of puts me off partly. I'm sure it's the sort of thing, once I've done it once, I'll do it every time I make a bag, but for now I haven't. But I'm still think I'm going to use this bag plenty, and I really like it, and yeah, looking forward to using it this summer. So yeah, that was a stash busting project, and yeah, I started it because obviously I'd reviewed the book and I wanted to choose a project from the book to make, and also I was working on it because making the granny square is really easy and you don't have to think too much about it. It's not too big, it's not too fiddly, so it was really good car crochet. And during the Easter holidays, the school Easter holidays, it was a few weeks before Easter actually, because they broke up early, Easter was late, we went to the Cotswolds for a few days break, and it's not too far from us really, it's only about 2.5 hours drive, but you know, that's a decent chunk of crochet time, so it's a shame to miss the opportunity. So I took this project along with me just to work on. Mainly I only worked on it in the car on the way there and on the way back, and got quite a bit done, and then a bit more done over Easter when we got back and finished it off. But that was really fun and a great way to use up yarn. You could do as many colours as you want, lots, or you could do it all in one colour or 2 colours. But yeah, you could do it random. I didn't do it random though. Yeah, so I'd recommend that project from the book. That was the Feel the Magic granny bag. The final project I have to show you, I don't think I showed you this finished, but I must have finished it very soon after the last episode. This is my Starstruck shawl, which is finished and blocked, and the pattern is released. You might have seen it. There's also a full video tutorial taking you through exactly how to do it step by step. So it's each motif is just 4 rounds, and you join as you go to join them all together. So although the wrap's obviously quite big, it's quite a simple pattern because it's just 4 rounds of crochet repeated, and you just join them all together, and there's no edging, no trim, nothing like that. It's literally just all these stars joined together. There's also a written pattern available if you'd like it. Yeah, or you can watch the video, or you can do both, but that's out now. And yeah, I'm looking forward to wearing it this summer, going out, you know, for nice occasions in the evening, maybe dinner. We're going to a wedding, I'm not sure. I'll see what dress I wear. I think it would look good over like a dark navy. But yeah, that's the Starstruck wrap. I think I've rattled through everything today. I hope it wasn't too fast. But that's all I've got to show you at the moment. As I mentioned, I'm working on 2 other projects, both of which are blankets. One I will be able to show you very soon, definitely next time, and in the coming weeks on Instagram as well. If you follow me over there, you'll see some pictures of it. I'm sure I'll post pictures there before our next podcast. The other project is still secret and won't be revealed until the autumn. So yeah, those 2 things are coming up. I've also picked up again, I was knitting a sock. I think I'd finished 1 sock last time. That was the Book Nook socks that I was making with Emma from Emma Sue Makes. I put the second sock on hold while I was working on those other two projects that I just showed you, and but now they're finished. I have just this week started the second sock, but I've only made a really tiny bit, so I didn't bring that along because it's not particularly exciting to show you. But yeah, I'll be working on that as well over the next weeks, and probably returning to some of the other projects like the canal boat blanket that I was making, which was a really nice, easy, relaxing one. I think I was about halfway there on that one. So those are my plans for the next few weeks, and yeah, whenever I next podcast, I'll bring you up to date on where they all are. But otherwise, I hope you're all well. I hope you've been enjoying working on some crochet projects recently. Do drop me a comment, let me know where you're watching from, what you've been working on while you're watching. Love to hear from you, and yeah, take care, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.